So we are now getting started with the Module 2 Intervention and Enrichment, a focus on intervention, chart assessment, principal interview questions. All right, so this is for class EDLE 7400. So the first question is, how are essential standards identified and how do we track student progress towards mastery of essential standards? And I'll read it again. It says, how are essential, or you want me to email it to you? Okay. All right. So it says, how are essential standards identified? Okay. And how do we track student progress towards mastery of essential standards?
In terms of day-to-day instruction, essential standards are identified using the curriculum provided by DeKalb County School District. It maps the content for each unit according to themes. So currently in social studies, in fourth grade, teachers are working on westward expansion. In science, they are working on thematic science units that relate to STEM or that connect to STEM. And in ELA, they are also working on different elements of reading comprehension right now and phonics. So for teaching and learning purposes, essential standards are identified according to the curriculum provided by DeKalb County, which aligns with the Georgia Standards of Excellence. For assessment purposes, essential standards are identified utilizing the blueprints that are provided by the Georgia Department of Education, which tell you which standards have the greatest weight in terms of recognizing how well students master the content. So if you're talking about assessment, there's one way of looking at essential standards, and if you're talking about teaching and learning, there's another way. However, tracking student progress is a daily activity with formative assessments and informal assessments during class. Those assessments should take place during instruction, where teachers should immediately determine whether or not the majority of their students have learned what has been taught and reteach at that time. There are also quick in the classroom assessments. There are also what we call common formative assessments, which are like mini tests. We also assess here in DeKalb using multiple measures of data that also include access. It includes accesses for our ESOL learners. It includes a mirror. It includes 95 core. It includes math. It includes benchmarks. So there are multiple ways to track student progress, but particularly here at Oak Cliff, what we have done is we have organized our students' scores and their data according to the milestone performance bands. And so when we track our students' progress, we can tell which one of our students from fall to winter have mastered the content, which, who has grown in proficiency or who has regressed in proficiency. Then we utilize that data to determine what our small group intervention should look like. And we monitor the progress in the intervention as well. So identifying essential standards does drill all the way down to tracking how well students master that content when teachers properly plan and deliver the grade level standards.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for that. All right. And so the next part for part one is, do teams of teachers develop formative assessments together, or is this an individual activity for teachers?
Ideally, it is a collaborative process. However, because of the structure of our schedule, in fifth grade particularly, we have one fifth grade science teacher, we have one fifth grade math teacher, and one teacher who teaches both English and social studies. So those teachers do develop their common formative assessments individually. However, it is in a collaborative setting during the day. Every Tuesday we have 90-minute collaborative planning where teachers are able to connect with their fourth grade counterparts to have some alignment from fourth to fifth grade. And the reason this works, especially in ELA, is because a lot of the skills in language arts are in ELA. They don't change much from one grade level to the next. It's just the complexity of the text. So the collaboration to develop assessments works really well in that instance.
All right, thank you, Dr. Johnson. The next question is, how frequently are formative assessments given?
All the time. As I mentioned in an earlier question, we have multiple measures of data that we can pull from to determine how well our students listen, read, and write, how well they have comprehended the grade level standards. So to answer your question in terms of how frequently, assessments are given throughout the school year. Unfortunately, because of the calendar, it can appear, if you mark every day that an assessment, that a required assessment is given, there would be more days marked with assessments than there are with instruction. So in the research, that would be, some good comparative data. And I know I'm veering off a little bit, but in terms of the frequency of assessments given, in comparison to the amount of time instruction is allowed, it would be interesting to look at the time that teachers have to go back and reteach after data is analyzed, to look at where there's an opportunity to close instructional gaps.
Okay. All right. The next question is, how is data analyzed?
Data can be analyzed by student groups in terms of our ethnicities. Data can be analyzed by gender. Data can be analyzed by question. Data can be analyzed according to the rubric. Data can be analyzed by grade level, by content area. Data can be analyzed according to a student's exceptionality.
All right, finish that off. Okay. How is the data used?
The data is used to determine what the instructional steps need to be for students, what next steps need to be with instruction. And it helps to prepare teachers to know how to reteach in a different way, which is where differentiation comes in, and use of instructional strategies comes in. So the data lets the teacher know, hey, when I taught this standard or this concept or this element or this idea or this theme or this unit, the majority of my students mastered this. However, I may need to do a small group with these 4 students because they are approaching mastery and they have not yet mastered. So data informs you on which direction you need to go with ensuring that students gain the understanding before you just keep teaching. It's good for predictive measures. Data lets you know, if students did not do well last year, and this is, the method that you taught, that you need to plan a different lesson for the upcoming school year as well. Data is used to look at teacher placement or employment placement, and it's not just academic data. It's all types of data. It's attendance data, behavioral data, job performance data.
Okay, thank you. So now we're on part 2, which says, how is our system, oh, that's not a question. Next part says, research-based. How is, okay, so let me pause this.